I started custom rags in the year 2000. And I had worked for another clothier for a couple of years and just decided to start on my own, actually, through the grace of one of my clients. He was the CEO of our largest health system.
Really?
And he was my client. And, you get to know your clients very well. It's a very intimate position as well. And he said, Debbie, you're really good at what you do. Why don't you start your own business? And I kind of laughed about it because, prior to that, I had 2 years to live. Long story,
Really?
2 years to live. And had a doctor who saved my life. He's the one that introduced me to the CEO of the hospital and started working with his clothes. And he said, why don't you start your own business? What if I put some doctors together and we invest in you? And I said, oh my gosh, that'd be great. That'd be fabulous. But, I noticed he'd had a martini and port after dinner. So I called the next day and asked for Dr. Beeman. And I said, is Dr. Beeman in the office? And they put me on the phone and I said, are you serious about what you said? Are you willing to invest in me? And he said, I believe in you unequivocally. What do you want to do? And before his wife even had moved out to Nashville, Tennessee, where my business was, they gave me a credit line against their house to start custom rags.
Really?
That was in year 2000. And I bought them out a couple of years later. And in 2004, with Peter Roberti Sr., I was invited to be part of the NFL, the Coaches Club.
Yeah.
So I started working with that, and I had the Arizona Cardinals. I asked for the St. Louis Rams because I was already working with the head of Anheuser-Busch. So I stayed at their house, and I went, can I have the Rams? They had a new coach. And then I had the Titans because they were in Tennessee, and Coach Fisher wasn't crazy about his clothier, so I started with them. And then I said, can I have the Arizona Cardinals? I'm from there. I'd like to kind of bring my client base into there. And then your dad one day said, hey, can you help Brett Favre's wife? She had breast cancer and she's doing a book tour. So I went, oh, yeah, that'd be great. So we met in Milwaukee, I think. And I took a bunch of clothes to her and we just met up after she had a doctor's appointment. And we just became best friends. And we just kind of hit it off right off the bat. And I started dressing her. And if she was on the Today Show, I'd put her in Ralph Lauren. If she was doing 700 Club, I'd put her in St. John. And, we just I've always been an image consultant, so I just had so much fun with it. And Brett was still playing. So, I would do things wherever they were traveling. And I started in Green Bay with him.
Yeah.
And then I had the Rams. I mean, one thing kind of led to another. We just always had this constant history.
Sure.
But Deanna was doing revivals, like church revivals, talking about her book. And one day I took a bunch of pearls and real conservative things, just for her to wear to the revival. But I had taken a jewelry class with Coach Fisher's assistant, like the weekend before that, not even putting anything together. But I had woven a glass bracelet, like woven Japanese beads. And for some reason, I mean, it's, God puts me in the best places always. I took these things to Deanna. She goes, wouldn't it be fun to make your own jewelry? And I went, oh my gosh, let me show you what I made. And I got my slab of beads. It was this big with thread hanging off it because I didn't know how to finish it off. And she went, Debbie, I really like that. Would you make me some things? Hence, going forward, I started taking it to Santa Fe and putting it in all these places. And then it got bigger and bigger. And I started showing it in New York twice a year at the Javits. So just started doing that and it was honestly, it was on the cover of Rolling Stone and it was on the cover of Billboard on men. I didn't know it. A stylist put them on. So I'm like, oh, this has legs. This is really kind of fun.
Yeah.
So one thing led to another. And I had Kenny Rogers. I was dressing him right before he died. And I was dressing Brett. And I had Coach Fisher. And I had my teams. But it just kind of changed. The pandemic changed everything.
Sure.
I had a plastic surgeon that wore suits all the time. But when he started wearing scrubs, he didn't lose his productivity. So we all just kind of pivoted, and I, at that point, decided I just wanted to make jewelry. It was one of a kind, and because I'm a custom clothier, showing in New York was really hard because stores would come in and go, I want 4 of these, Well, I didn't want to make 4 of these. I didn't want to make 2 earrings. They matched.
Yeah.
So I wanted to really be one of a kind and unique. So when I stopped showing in New York, I was able to do that. 4 years ago, one of my clients called and said, Debbie, I'm doing this project. It's huge. It's a luxury farm in Franklin, Tennessee. The rooms are $3,600 a night with a 2-night minimum. It's really elevated. We want you to come and interview to do the uniforms. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about this. Tell me. It's a luxury farm. And I really studied. And a couple days later, they gave me 2 days to research. And I went in with my iPad and I said, okay, it's going to be contemporary Amish meets Huck Finn with a continental flair.
Huh.
And I took these pictures, and it was hilarious. I had them on my iPad, and I had a whole board, probably 12 people I was showing it to, and I was passing it around, and I could see some of the people kind of rolling their eye. I couldn't tell, honestly. I couldn't tell how they were reacting, but some would kind of roll their eyes, or some would go, so I couldn't really tell. Did my presentation, left. I walked out with my contact, and I said, oh my gosh, Ray, this is going to be so expensive. And he goes, I know. But when I was saying that, I was saying, I'm going to charge a lot, and the clothes are going to be a lot of money. And he said, I know. 2 days later, I texted him and said, do you need a presentation? Do you need me to do some sort of business plan or something? What else do you need? And he goes, well, no, you got the job.
Wow.
No one asked me, anything about it. Nobody gave me a budget. Nobody said, what are you going to do? Just this huge project that I didn't put the jewelry aside. I kept doing the jewelry, but it took me 2 years to work on this uniform because I had 250 people and 50 different categories. I had to dress a beekeeper and a farmer and a maintenance man, and then an elevated restaurant that they were going for Michelin ratings, and it was going to be 5 stars. So all of a sudden I was going, oh my gosh, I need to put really cool suspenders on them, and I had aprons made in Thailand out of canvas tents, and I made really cool leather suspenders with a harness in the back for the bartenders, and I elevated it to the max, and got done, finished that project, and one thing led to another. But one of the biggest elements in my uniform was a chore coat. And it's the first time I ever knew about a chore coat. And they were Japanese made. It was Japanese inspired. And I'm fascinated with that Japanese inspired clothing because it's asymmetrical. It's just got a really cool vibe. Even my jewelry is kind of asymmetrical. There's nothing symmetrical. As a matter of fact, for a long time, looking at my jewelry, I had Brett Favre's number in there. It was his retired number. And 7 is my biblical number. So there would be an increment of 7 or 4 or 4 and 3 to make 7 because it was like courage of my conviction.
Huh.
So it was always in my design. So I started kind of incorporated everywhere. So it was just a fun thing to do. But the chore coats fascinated me, and I had them. So
that was the first time you were kind of introduced to the chore coat.
Yeah. So that would have been maybe 4 years ago. A chore coat is everything. Quite honestly, it's just everything. But to start off, let me tell you what it's not. Yeah. Because I think that's even more important. It's not a sport coat. It is not a shirt. It's not a sweater. It's not a jacket. It's not a jacket. It is a chore coat. CHORE. It's a chore coat, because a lot of people still go, well, what are you saying? Is it chore? Is it sure? Is it, what are you saying? So I've kind of learned to give it that ambiance. And honestly, a chore coat is legendary. It's been around for centuries, for heaven's sakes. It was, picture Paul Newman wearing a chore coat when he was in prison. I don't know do you remember that? He was like on the tracks, and James Jean. It's been around forever. It's legendary. I like to call them coats without rules. There's no right or wrong. You can put a chore coat on with jeans, a cargo pant, trousers, shorts. It doesn't even matter. It's just, there's no right or wrong. And then the shoes can be anywhere from a driver to a combat boot to a cowboy boot to sneakers. Everybody's got, we're all sneakerheads now. Yeah. So it can go with anything, but it's so cool because it's got brevity. It's got grit. Yeah. It's got grace. it's memorable. It really is, and it's just something that you want to embrace. I kind of feel like you're nobody until you put this coat on, and it just kind of empowers you, where you just feel like somebody. Because as I've been an image consultant for so long, I always say you can't put your finger on charisma. You can't make someone enigmatic. You can dress them that way, but you can't change somebody's personality. But you sure can put a chore coat on and immediately have attitude.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's what's so cool about it. The original French chore coat was a blue. It was a specific blue, had a little bit of a periwinkle to it, and it had 3 pockets. So it had 2 big pockets and a top pocket. But it was, I don't want to say boxy because that gives it a connotation, but it's not fitted. There's no compression dart, suppression dart. It's not fitted. The sleeve's a little bigger. It just is something that you roll up the sleeve, you pull up the collar. It doesn't have to be fitted. It's not something that has a lot of definition. So fabric-wise, I know when I did the wardrobe, I used a railroad stripe because there was a railroad that had run through the property. So I also did an olive and a tobacco, but I did colors that were actually indicative to what they had used in the whole scheme of the place. But now how I feel about it, when we talked about the collaboration, I wanted it to be textured. I would use burlap if I could, but I don't think you guys will let me. So now the fabrics that we picked, again, I can tell you what it doesn't come in. It's not a window pane. It's not necessarily predictable small houndstooth. It might be a sort of a mutant, a larger houndstooth, or a really exaggerated herringbone. But it's not a predictable. It's not a predictable like a sport coat fabric. So I want it to have texture. So when I see a fabric, we all had baby blankets when we were younger, so we're tactile. I want to feel it. Just when we show fabric anyway, being custom clothiers, it's the hand of the fabric. But when I see a chore coat, I want it to be nubby. I want it to be marbled. Like we're using a lot of Donegals this season because it's a great neutral color, but then it's got all those flecks of color in it that I just think is like divine, because all of a sudden you can take an olive Donegal with there's a little orange speck in there that pops out the most, and put an orange paisley shirt under it and just go, holy cow, that's so cool. So just like my jewelry line, I like to say it's unexpected. It's unapologetic. And it's unexpected. It's something that you really don't expect. It's just a coat that you can throw on with everything, anything. Again, it's closed with brevity. It says so much with that one little coat. I think because it's old-timey to me. It reminds me more of that flour sack, or that something that you would get beans in 40 years ago, and it's not necessarily textured, but to look at it, you can take that waxed canvas and scrunch it with your hands, and it almost comes out marbled. You can't wash them, you can't dry clean them, but it's a coat, and that's almost the beauty of it, because there are so many jean lines right now that you can't wash. You are told never to wash these jeans. Okay, which for some of us is a great idea. But it's just, there's something about that wax canvas. It can read military, it can read mining, it has just so many, it can read farmer. It just has a lot of feeling to it. And because of how it looks, and it scrunches at the sleeve when you wear it, it just has a really cool vibe. You don't see a lot of things with that fabric.
No.
For so many reasons, but if you're a fabric person, I'm a tactile person, I studied textiles, I just gravitate to it because I think it's such a cool vibe. And for a chore coat, and we're using brass buttons and buttons that are leather and brass. We're not using a horn button or a bone button. It's got it's got girth. They're thicker and they just have some texture to them, or I can't do anything shiny. Same, it's kind of what I've always done. I like that matte finish because we're not doing anything slick with a Chore coat. I have used the wax canvas again just because I'm obsessed. I really am obsessed. But I realized that, to me, in my 26 years of being a custom clothier, blue is one of the best colors just about any man can wear. It's strong. It's sexy, but it's a strong color. So I always like to have the blue in it. So some of the fabrics that I picked kind of have a hopsacky look, but there's blue in it somewhere because denim is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Doesn't matter what it is. We just need to incorporate the denim. Denim has been around forever. It's never going to go anywhere, but I feel like it's stronger than ever.
Yeah.
So a lot of them have that blue. I think we even picked, there's one that's a canvas linen, and I know we're going into fall, but it is like drop dead gorgeous.
A little bit beefier, so it has the weight of it. It's amazing.
So we haven't even talked about styles, but I picture that in number 2, the 1930s French Chore coat. Oh my gosh, it's just going to be incredible. And the fun thing is, because we did small, medium, large, extra large, women want them. How can I get it? How can I meet with you? What can I do? How can I see the fabric? So it really is kind of a cool thing. We're talking vintage. We're talking metal. If you think about the Chore coat, I think of the fabric, of course, is all natural fabric. It can be linen, wool, silk. It's always going to be a natural fabric. But here we've got wood, metal. I'm obsessed because I do use these.
Cool.
Aren't they awesome? So this is really cool. Believe it or not, I found these online. And I just went crazy for them. And I have almost 20 locations for my jewelry. So oftentimes if I do a show, I will drape things on these hangers. But then when we started the Chore coats, I went, oh, no. This can't be on a normal hanger. This has to be unique. This has to be different. And we talked about it with the wardrobe bag. It has to be rough. It kind of has to have a flour sack look, so we were always doing that. But I just think these are so cool, and they're just raw. I just think they're incredibly cool.
So simple, but it works so well with what we're trying to accomplish.
So there's just this theme that I like to kind of carry through the Chore coats. It's a Chore coat. Like I said, there's nothing else like it. So I love that we are using vintage, antique, rustic. There's a great term. It's like rustic with charm. And it was kind of fun when we started this. I said, especially in the South, there's a thing called from farm to table that is applicable, and it probably is all over the place, but it's applicable to food. I love the idea of like the Chore coat. It's like thread to a garment, fiber to a coat. There's just something that kind of has that same vibe. So when I see hangers and when I see those garment bags, that's what I think of. It starts somewhere in a really cool way.
You mentioned buttons, and I just want everybody to understand kind of what we're talking about here.
Leather and brass, of course.
I mean, just look at how cool.
Love.
I mean, just look how cool those. It's just
hammered. And this is really cool because we talked about the simplicity. It's just a metal button. It's a 4-hole metal button, but it's matte again. So it's got its own
so much
vibe.
Weight to it. I mean, and I feel like it just tells so much of a so much of a story that.
Exactly. So here we've got a shank button, but it's nice and thick, and it's right. Again, I bring up that term girth. We're talking about a button with girth, but of course that has to be on a Chore coat. It can't be. It can't be a silly 4. It can be 4-hole, but it's got to be something beefy. And we knew that when we started these, it was kind of baby steps, but we still had to. We still had to make some progress with each style, but when they came in, it was a lot closer than I think any of us anticipated.
Yeah.
It really was. But what we did with the number 3 coat, the old field coat.
Oh yeah, the field coat.
And it's a little bit longer. It's got kind of, oddly enough, like a Yellowstone kind of vibe. But we did a ticket pocket and then a welt pocket on the top, and we decided that we would put denim on those 2 pockets, even though, let's see, there are 4 pockets total, right?
Yeah.
And then we put denim with a hand stitch on it just to make it a little bit different, because these are unlined coats. There's no shoulder pad. They're piped. The seams are all piped in AJ blue. So it's got this really cool continuity. We've talked about the continuity, the cohesiveness of the coats, the cohesiveness of the styles, and we just really want really simple. So there are the 4 styles and 14 fabrics to pick from.
Yeah.
And it's just, when you look, what's really fun, you look at the 14 fabrics and they're all divine. I mean, they're all incredible fabrics. And what's really fun, and I think we've all kind of figured out, a client looks at it and he can't quite decide, so he'll get 2 different styles with the 2 different fabrics, or he'll go, I love this style, let's do these 2 fabrics, and they look nothing alike. Mm-hmm. They're so cool, and they're just, it's fun. I talked to a female client, and I haven't seen it on her, actually your client, and I said, did you get the coat? And I said, how is it? She goes, I love it, but I need to call you, and I need you to tell me how to wear it. And I know that I probably drove you guys crazy because I was scrutinizing every little texture and the weight and every little thing about it. But I think that discerning quality of the fabric, because of what it is critical and extremely integral in the end result, because it needs that texture. It needs the body. We all looked at a couple fabrics today that had a little bit more beefiness to it, and we all fell in love, and we went, so you've got this gamut. You've got a couple that are a little bit heavier and some that are really light, so you've got everybody covered. I feel like, there are only so many styles and so many fabrics, but I feel like the latitude of that goes on forever, because you've got, I want this, I want that, and what button do you want? Because we've limited it to the buttons too, so they can pick the button and go, I like the leather and the brass. So it's just so much fun to play with, and it's giving your client the ability to design it a little bit too. Mm-hmm. Because as clothiers, we might go, what I think this style would be really cool in, let's do this in the canvas linen. That's going to be so cool, and let's do this button. So clearly, it's kind of our baby, and we know what we want it to be artistically. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun to give them guidance. But again, it's just so much fun. There's no fit. You just roll it up. I'm picturing the gray, the charcoal wax canvas. We're going to put it on. I'm going to put a crisp white cotton shirt under it with jeans, and then just kind of roll the collar up sloppily. I think that would be amazing. I can also picture it with just a great white or black V-neck t-shirt. Just make it really, really simple. I'm a jeweler, so, I like to put jewelry on my guys too. So that's always kind of a fun episode. I can also see it with a colored shirt. I like to see patterns under it. It can be a paisley, it can be a check, it can be something, but it's going to have not a dress shirt look. It's not going to be, it could be a pinstripe, but it would be more, been out of the business too long. It could be, it could be a buffalo check underneath it, because that would be really a little bit more intense. So something that complements the jacket. Okay. Going into fall, I can see some crew neck sweaters. You could put a cashmere sweater under that, and it would be divine. Again, it's not fitted, so it's not like a sport coat. You're not limited. There's no limit. A Henley, like a really cool Henley. We're going to do some for our photo shoot. That's going to be really cool. We're doing a suspender line with Adrian Jules, and some are canvas tents. They're made out of canvas tents, and some are elastic, and we're going to show different ways to do that also. But then to throw it on with jeans is amazing. You can throw it on with like a flat front pant, and it's equally as cool. It could be with a cargo. Honestly, it could be with shorts. I mean, I've got clients, especially in Nashville, Tennessee, that'll probably wear shorts and combat boots. So there's just no right or wrong. I mean, what would I not see?
I was gonna say, where wouldn't they or how wouldn't they wear it? I mean, obviously they wouldn't wear it with like a tie, but
they wouldn't wear it with a tie. Maybe a bandana or something.
Yeah,
that
like
might
a little
really
ascot or
cool.
bandana. Yeah,
that would be awesome. And I almost said I don't see it with a pinstripe pant, but yeah, I kind of do. If it was a flat front pinstripe pant and a color that kind of
high-waisted
complemented, wouldn't that be cool? Almost like a Gurkha kind of style. I think that would be amazing. So there's very little. What wouldn't you wear with it? Like a really dressy mohair.
Yeah.
Or something that has a sheen to it. It just is. That's too unexpected. But it's just coat without rules. I mean, there just are no limitations, I don't think. Okay, again, let's go back to that wax canvas, and he's got the crisp white cotton shirt on and jeans. He can wear sneakers. I mean, he could wear a driver. He could wear a combat boot. He could wear a cowboy boot. Again, I'm in Nashville, so I've been on a horse once in my life, and I'm obsessed with cowboy boots. So there's just something about that look. Just about any shoe, high tops, everything just kind of goes with it. But again, I always leather looks really cool with Chore coats because again, it gives that vintage feel. Yeah. One of the things I did for Southall, they did have a shoe requirement, and I wanted it to be a tie-up boot in a saddle tan color. Oh, cool. So, and the only place that was an exception was Banquet because they were in a black asymmetrical vest and black jeans. They had to wear a black boot, but it was a tie-up boot, so it just had to have this really cool vibe. So I think, that looks kind of farmer-like, but it doesn't mean that you have to do that with a Chore coat. It just works. I mean, anything works. And sneakers are used. Hats, of course, I love, love, love. Not everyone is a hat person. Let's just say it. There's Peaky Blinders brought the really cute little hats, the caps and stuff. I get a lot of those for my wardrobe. But that looks really cool with the Chore coat because it's sloppy. It doesn't have a lot of shape.
What's the hat that you brought in? You brought in for the. It was a hat.
That's wax canvas. That is. It's a field hat, and I use that for. They're from Tom Beckby, and we can talk about that later. Tom Beckby is out of Birmingham, Alabama, and I discovered them when I was doing a lot of research for the wardrobe. Nicest people, and they are now in Oxford, Mississippi also. And it's just a really cool vintage, it's almost like a vintage Barber. You know how Barber did all their wax canvas, but this is more vintage, and those hats are just exceptional.
Super cool.
They're so cool, and you can crunch it and scrunch it, and that is my hat. I love them. So, yeah, I love hats with it. If you've got a guy that, as you know, you've got some that are willing to pull it off and other guys that go, oh, gee, I just could never do it. But it's in a different world when females do that. They go, I could never do that. But just try it once. Try it once. You're going to get compliments and you will never think back on it. There was a time where Norma Kamali brought huge shoulder pads. Enormous. I mean, they were like you looked like a robot in them. And the first time you wore it, you just felt so clownish. And then that's all you ever wore. Again, that's how shoulder pads kind of came about. Yeah. But it's like wearing it once. And honestly, for what we do for a living as image consultants, your client's going to be pretty confident. Yeah. You don't get a lot of meek, gee, I just can't do that. They probably wouldn't seek you out. So a Chore coat, just like my jewelry, I go, it is unexpected and it's unapologetic. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. But the Chore coat kind of gives it a little bit more latitude because it's so simple. It's so no-brainer. Yeah. And if you don't want to put a cardigan on or a jacket or a sport coat, because the sport coat doesn't go everywhere. There are shenanigans that a sport coat doesn't work out. But
absolutely.
I've got a great example. I had a client, he's one of the coolest people, and when I first started working with him, he said, I've had experiences, and I'm just one and done. I just don't want to do this. Well, it turned out that he loved it. He absolutely loved it. And he was pretty powerful in his position, but he went to his alma mater, and he had a sport coat on, and he told me this story after the fact, and this lady turned around and she went, "You're somebody, aren't you?" And he was with his wife, and she told me the story too. And he goes, "No, I'm nobody." She goes, and she turned around again, and she again turned around. She went, "No, you're somebody. No, you're somebody. No one wears a sport coat like that. You're somebody." And I thought that was one of the coolest things. And from that point on, he never questioned me. He just let me do whatever I wanted to do. And if I wanted to put a pocket square in there, he was awesome because he was somebody, but he didn't think he was somebody. And I feel that that's what the Chore coats do. They give you that kind of Johnny Depp charismatic, I'm somebody, because they carry themselves differently. It's just something that you do with comfort and confidence, and with attitude and a little bit more charisma, because charisma's tough. Charisma's tricky. I would say legendary, grit, timeless, but that doesn't seem very romantic, but it's timeless.
But it is timeless.
It really is timeless, and doesn't mean the same thing as legendary. There's one other, and it's...
Would you say unapologetic?
They're definitely unapologetic and unexpected.
Unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you say unexpected, what does that mean to you?
What it means to me is that same thing when people go, well, what is a Chore coat? Because nobody really knows that much about it till you explain, and then when you realize that it's just unlined, it is unapologetic. There's no shoulder pad. It's soft. It's not even, it's not a sack coat. We know it's not a sack coat. So to me, that unexpected part is you don't see it anywhere. You don't see it everywhere. You don't see it anywhere. It's just one of those things that is a head turner. To me, I always use a hashtag that is like standout styling. None of us dress our clients to stick out. We dress them to stand out. And to me, it's standout styling when you put that cool coat on it. Again, they're not going to notice necessarily what's underneath it. They can and they will, and it's still integral to the look. But I think that Chore coat on its own is one of those things that you just want to touch. As a clothier, when I would show a man cashmere, I'd go, women love it. And that's a huge key. And it wasn't just trying to make a sale, but that really kind of is. We're tactile. We all have baby blankets. So when you see the fabric, no matter what it is, and that's why I was so discerning about looking at those fabrics and making sure it had texture and tactile and that it was memorable, because I think that's a huge part, memorable. So we've got our 4 styles, the 4 designs in this cohesive Chore coat. The first one is called the vintage work coat, and it has a cutaway front. I always like to do the wax canvas in it. It's got metal buttons, but it's got a military vibe in a really sexy way. Number 2 is the 1930s French Chore coat, and it emulates the real French Chore coat, not a chef coat, that has the 3 pockets, and it's very pronounced, but it's a really cool, again, it brings that rustic with charm, which I think is so cool. The number 3 coat is called an old field coat, and that's the one that's a little bit longer, that we're putting denim on the 2 pockets. It is a little bit longer, and it's again, the length is really cool because it's not a top coat, it's not a car coat, it's a little bit almost mid-thigh. And it just has this really, again, I think I compared that to the Yellowstone look. It's like a drifter. It's like a drifter's coat, which is such a good term for it. And then number 4 is Sojourner, and I think of traveler. I think of kind of kind of that muse. It's just the traveler, the sojourner that just travels the world and is kind of all over, which I think is really cool. But all of them, I mean, I think, I'm looking at some verbiage that I think just captures the cohesiveness of this coat, and relatable is a beautiful term for a chore coat. It's relatable. It's, oftentimes when I would go in to see a client with my custom clothing, I would literally say, what do you want to say? Do you want to say you're powerful, knowledgeable, approachable, friendly? What do you want to say? What do you want to exude? So I feel like the chore coat really is just that relatable, friendly. It's not intimidating by any stretch. It's approachable. It's relatable. You can feel the warmth in that person that's wearing it. And I think that's really cool. But inimitable to me is like a fabulous, fabulous term, because inimitable means that it can't be replicated. That you cannot, if you had to, charisma is definitely involved in that, because I styled a client once and she did like some stage performance, but it was really more like poetic. And she called me one day after I'd put her clothes together and she said, Debbie, I was at True Foods and somebody came up and said, your outfit is inimitable. And we both went, that's probably the best compliment you could ever get. Because he was thinking, there's no way you can put this together. I can't go home and put it together. It's inimitable. And I think that's a great code for the chore coats, because you just can't replicate it. You can't buy it. You can go buy it, but it's not going to look anything like ours because of our fabrics and just the style of it that we've tweaked to be our collab. And I kind of think, when I say clothes with brevity, I'm saying, because brevity means it's just very short words, very few words. So clothes with brevity, to me, it's kind of saying like, it says it all.
Yeah.
It just says it all. So when you say, what's a chore coat? I go, oh my gosh, it's everything. It's so much. It says it all. In that one garment, that's what's really kind of fun about it. They're very cool. As you can see, I'm very attached to them. Just to kind of give you an idea about some of the coats I started in our first season. I have an attorney that is the attorney for Spotify. I've never done anything but put slick suits on him. And all I had to do was show him the pictures, having a drink with him one night, showing him the pictures of the coats. And number one, the vintage work coat, he went, this one. I said, well, there are three more. And he goes, no, this one. And he goes, and he picked two fabrics. And that was it. So I kind of laughed internally thinking, I've never done anything but like really slick, kind of powerful corporate suits for you. And I thought it was kind of cute. And then one of the heads at Amazon, we have Amazon in Nashville, and he started with them in Seattle. And he's really a very plain jeans and a t-shirt kind of look, but he did one of our coats that was woven, like in a navy woven, that was just gorgeous. Another guy, pediatric neurologist, he wanted it to be really, really different and funky, just totally out of the box. I've got a country rocker that picked two of the fabrics that in a million years I wouldn't have picked, because I thought he would do the wax canvas, and he didn't. He got a plaid and a stripe. We did that oatmeal stripe with a red that was just outrageously cool. So it was totally unexpected. So the beauty of it is when we first started that first season, and I realized who it appealed to, and it was kind of, it was an array. It was this whole gamut that I was thinking, wow, this has latitude. It's got legs, because you've got these people going, oh, that's really cool. And honestly, I was sending pictures that we didn't really have in the beginning. That's why it's so exciting that we get to really build it now into something that's just so substantial. I think it's going to be so much fun with these fabrics, and like sticking with the same designs and changing fabrics is so exciting. As we all know, in each season, as clothiers, we kind of feel that way, but it's just fun. Absolutely. And the fact that you can cuff it, you can roll up the sleeve. And, again, I want to point out that the piping on all the seams, because there's no lining, that's what makes it so unique. You can just roll it up. I love the idea of that flour sack kind of look with it. Well, it's kind of a combination. For one thing, I think fall clothes are so much cooler because, when it's hot, you can't take enough clothes off, and it's really, you don't care if you look cute. But I think fall just has so much more potential because layering is the thing that draws the eye in. If you've ever noticed, and it's guys too, it's guys and girls, if you ever notice, it's that thing that draws the eye if you've got layers, and sometimes the shirt hangs out a little bit, or the bandana hangs out a little bit, or there's just something to it. It's that extra element that is unexpected again. So the fall, I just think is amazing because I get to style it so much stronger than you do summer. You're probably going to put a t-shirt underneath it, and when it's hot, it's hot. It's just hot everywhere. So it's got a beauty to it. I think the fall season, I just start thinking hats, jewelry, even a bandana, if somebody will wear that, that would be amazing. Or just layering, because you can actually do vests under these too, and it's so crazy cool. So that's where I start thinking even more texture, and that's not something we're doing right now, but who knows, because I think the vest idea is so cool. So I'm excited about fall. I'm always excited about fall. There's a thing that I do because I don't have kids. When school starts, even though it's 110 out, my mind goes to fall. I just like, okay, it's fall. It's time. We're in the season. It's going to be Halloween, and then it's going to be, so then it turns into holidays. Yeah. But I just think fall clothes and fabrics, because they're so much more textured, it's just more interesting, honestly. It's easier to make someone charismatic when you've got all those textures. It's just fun.